Hello, welcome to this video on Change Your Lens. Change Your Lens is a process that allows you to think more carefully about your perspectives and other perspectives in order to understand one another better and to negotiate a shared understanding. Often we misunderstand others because we don't have the same shared set of norms or basic understandings due to differences in cultures or other kinds of orientations. In the Change Your Lens process that I'll walk you through, you'll learn more about how to better understand your own values and orientations, as well as other people's values and orientations, and work together to communicate better. So first, what is your lens? Well, your lens is your way of perceiving the world. As I already mentioned, it's based on your values, your perspectives, and your previous experiences. These are often driven by your culture, your gender, socioeconomic status, religion, language you speak, and more. When you're with people who share some of these components with you, you reinforce one another's perspectives. So we perpetuate mindsets and ways of thinking when we surround ourselves with people who think like us. But when we interact with someone who doesn't think like us, who has a different orientation, a different perspective, a different lens, we may run into miscommunications and misunderstandings. So what I'm going to talk you through is a way to de-escalate arguments, to think about your perspectives, and to take on other people's perspectives in order to reach common ground. The way we do this is through a process, a set of steps represented by the word lens. First, L means to look objectively and list what happened. So to look objectively and to list what happens means trying to describe the experience, the interaction, the event, without judgment, without conclusions, without evaluation. To the best of your ability, simply list objectively what happened. When you come across evaluative words, try to describe what was happening. Rather than saying someone was rude, describe what sounded rude to you. Perhaps that they spoke loudly, perhaps that they used really direct words, perhaps that they were terse with you. So you would describe that as opposed to saying that they were rude. You might describe, again, how loud or quiet someone was, how direct or indirect their language was, as well as the words, the body language, and the tone. The next step, E, is examine your assumptions and explore inside. What this means is asking yourself, why did you draw the conclusions that you did? What did those features that you just described convey to you? Explore inside. Think about what these tones and intonations activated or made you feel inside. Or the flip, what did you expect to happen that didn't? What would have been another way the person could have interacted, which would have elicited different kinds of feelings for you? The third step is to note other possibilities and nudge yourself to grow. In this step, you're trying to consider what the other person's thought process and perceptions might be. When I say nudge yourself to grow, I mean look at the other person's possibilities in a positive way. So think about what the other person might have been feeling or thinking at the time. Maybe they were initially reacting to something about you. Or maybe they have a different communication style, and below that, a different set of values that drives the way that they communicate and interact. So when you note other possibilities, you are thinking about cultural differences, stylistic differences, personality differences that might explain why the other person used an approach that they did. In nudging yourself to grow, you are trying to not judge or list simplistic negative answers, but to think with an open mind about the other person's perspective and intentions. The next step is to try to see their perspective and to ask more questions of them. So try to engage with what they see and confirm that you understand their perspective. Ask them questions and allow them a chance to explain further what their perspective is, what they're trying to communicate, what their intentions are, and then try to respect the value that underlies that, even if that value is different from yours. Finally, explore more. Explore how you might use this process in other interactions. Explore how you might adapt your communication to better interact with this person. How you might do this in new situations. How you might apply what you've learned when you interact again with this person or when you interact with other people. So let me give you an example of how you might use this. Let's imagine that you're going to an interview and the person who's interviewing you is a U.S. American. You arrive at the interview about when you're supposed to be there. You meet the receptionist and you notice she has a really beautiful cell phone cover. So you look at it and ask her if you can pick it up and look at it more carefully. She hands it to you and you're admiring it and talking to her when the man who's going to be interviewing you bursts through the door and shoves his hand out for you while you still have the cell phone in your hand. You fumble it and give it back to the receptionist and suddenly realize you should take his hand and shake it. You get to his office and begin the interview. Although he speaks Spanish, he has a thick accent. And a few times you don't understand. So you say, huh? But he doesn't understand that you're asking him to repeat what he's saying, so he just says it louder. He finishes the interview abruptly and asks you to leave. You walk out feeling sure you did not get the job. So let's dissect this using Change Your Lens. So first, list what happened. You can identify a couple of things where you used some evaluative language. First, you said he burst through the door. So maybe instead you could list it more objectively as he came through the door fast and opened the door quickly and used a short tone. He flung his hand out to shake your hand. Again, you might reframe this when you list objectively that he offered his hand to shake. Now on your side, you tried to quickly put the phone down so that you could return his shake. When you're in the interview room and you didn't understand him, you said something like, huh, or what? And he didn't understand, so he spoke more loudly. So we've tried to list objectively here what happened without using some of the negative or judgmental words. Second, examine your assumptions. So when you were interacting with the receptionist, your assumptions were, it's polite to be friendly to all people who work in an office, and you were enjoying chit-chat with her. You were expecting that when you met the person for the interview, the receptionist would lead you into his office. Your expectations were that there would be a different kind of formality to the interview. Your assumptions were that he would understand when you asked for clarification that you wanted him to rephrase what he was saying, not say it louder. And your assumption is that when someone speaks loudly to you, they are yelling at you. So those are some of the assumptions you might discover when you examine your assumptions. Note other possibilities. So in noting other possibilities, you might consider that as an American, this man likes to shake hands. He might use that as a greeting. Perhaps in his culture, it's appropriate to be more direct and to not use a lot of pleasantries. Perhaps in his culture, the word huh or what is disrespectful, and that there is a different way to ask someone to clarify or repeat something. So these are all examples of noting other possibilities. Next, try to get more information. You might ask the receptionist for more information about this person's communication style. You might do some research about American business practices and interaction styles. You might ask someone else who spent time in the U.S. to explain American interaction styles. And finally, explore more. So in this step, you might try another interaction with someone who's from the U.S. and practice interacting in a different way, using some of the information you learned previously. These steps give you a chance to think about how your internal assumptions and expectations drive the way you act and the way you interpret other people's actions. If we can learn to take that step of evaluating our assumptions, recognizing that our assumptions are not universal, and recognize that our interpretations are not universal, then we can be more open to seeing another person's perspectives and interpretations. When we can move away from judging assumptions and expectations and just recognize that they're different, then we can be more flexible to try different ways of interacting and to have more patience with differences. In understanding and appreciating others' differences, you don't have to change your own beliefs or who you are. You just have to appreciate that someone else's are different. And that if you take on the responsibility of listening and engaging with those and adapting in small ways, you'll be very successful. These steps of exploring your lens, being open to changing it so that you understand another person's lens, can help you not only have more effective communications, but can broaden your perspectives and your understandings, leading to more creativity, more opportunities for different ways of engaging, and more opportunities for building bridges and connecting to other people. It allows you to develop awareness of yourself and of others, and to recognize that you have the flexibility to adapt and engage with a whole variety of people, letting you be more successful. I hope this is a useful opportunity for you to explore your own lens and other people's lenses.